I think bodybuilding is a lot like coming.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
This episode of SinCast is brought to you by Mubi, a curated online cinema streaming exceptional films from around the globe. Each day, Mubi introduces a new gem and you have 1 month to watch it. From cult classics to acclaimed masterpieces, every film is hand-selected by experts. Go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins for your special offer. All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
Yes.
That was nice.
That was epic. And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Hello.
And that was not epic. That was the opposite of epic. But we're gonna go back to space. Space. Yes.
Space, the final frontier.
Space, says the introduction to the Hitchhiker's Guide, is big. Really big.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Just as I think we want to go to space, Jake Gyllenhaal. What is that line in October Sky?
Oh, boy.
I think I want to go to space. Some crap. Maybe it's not him.
I think he gets in the taxi and shuts the door and says, "Now take me to jail."
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's Goodfellas.
That's what happens. That's what happened. Last time we were doing this, we were doing the basically the big franchises and everything. Now we're going to get into stuff that will never be a franchise, like Avatar.
Yeah, I know, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and the only reason you can call this a space movie really is because it's like on another planet, and they have to use space to get there. Right?
Yeah.
Now we'll see what the sequels do, but isn't all of Avatar on this one planet?
It's on Pandora, and it goes, well, where are they transporting from? Is that also on Pandora, like the control center?
Nah, I don't think so. I think they're in space. When
They're
that
in
happens.
space, and
I
then
think
they transport.
so.
They
It's
have
been
their
forever
avatar,
since
right?
it's been since 2009 since I watched this movie, but I think they're in space. I think they're on the ship.
Okay,
And then they put Sam Worthington in the thing, and then he goes to the planet.
Yeah. The thing, and then
Right.
Papa Dragon.
Right, and Papa Dragon. Papa Dragon.
I mean, I both understand why this was a global phenomenon, and I do not understand why this was a global phenomenon.
I certainly don't. I watched the movie twice. I watched it in 2D first, and then I watched it in 3D just to see, okay, if I'm missing something by not watching it in 3D, and I was like, there's some cool things in 3D, but nothing that made me really love that movie. There were people who were getting depressed because they couldn't go to Pandora when this movie came out.
I don't really understand that part of it. Like, you understand how people connected really, really hard to Titanic because you've got attractive magnetic leads, you've got an epic love story, you've got a tragic accident, you've got a tragic ending, you got a great score. You understand that, right? And I was part of that. Like, I really loved it. I wasn't one of those that saw it 5 times in the theaters, although I do know several people that did. But with Avatar, you don't get much more realistic than what Cameron did with the characters. The CG is objectively dynamite, but like it was fake enough for me that I just couldn't emotionally connect to
That's
it.
the problem. I relate to the world of Dark Crystal more than I relate to this.
Yeah, because it's so synthetic. Like, you just can't. I don't care how much money you've got. I don't care how great your 3D and your CG is. I can't. If it's not practical, if it's not touchy-feely, I can't get into
There's
it.
something about making something like overly colorful, like the Phantom Menace did back in the day. Something just overly colorful with all these primaries going through, and you're just like, man, it's kind of like the Matrix, right? Where they built 6 different ones, and like each one failed for certain reasons, and they made one where everybody was happy, and that didn't work because there's something fundamentally wrong, right?
I'm sorry, if you explain those, you have to do it in a very monotone voice and say a lot of Latin words like ipso facto and shit like that. Like
exactly. You do the Will Ferrell thing.
When I try and explain the popularity of Avatar, it always comes down to the tail fucking.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
There's something I'm joking, but I'm also not. There's there is a 5%, 10% sexual element. This is part of what people glommed onto was the quote unquote wholesome ethics of the movie, the dances with wolves, if you will. Some of it's cosplay, being able to pretend to be something else. I mean, they like basically formed a religion in some places out of this Na'vi bullshit. People were getting like face tattoos to look Na'vi. I think there's a sexual element there with the being somebody else and put my tail up to your tail.
But that and of course that also translates into they're putting their tail into other stuff and making it go.
Yeah, like hey, my magic horsey, I gotta fuck its tail.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I
right.
would like to have sex with you, John Spartan.
Right, exactly. It's one of those movies. I don't think I will ever get why it was so popular, but other people out there do.
But hasn't he missed his chance? Like, he's planning 4 more of these.
Yeah.
If he was going to do 4 more of them, shouldn't he have come out with the second one like 3 years after the first? Like, I think the iron is cold as fuck now.
Yes.
And the MCU has come along, and people's idea of what they want in a big spectacle movie is completely different than what it was when this movie came out.
The answer is always yes when it comes to this type of stuff. Avatar may have been a huge hit that's still way up there. It's still number 1. It won't be much longer, but it's number 1 worldwide, I believe, and it's number 2 domestic, I think, somewhere around there. But I think anytime a movie is huge and then you wait 10 years, then people are over it.
Yeah, and it's going to be what they said that it's coming out in 2022, right? So it'll be 13 years.
Well, it was
at that
supposed
point.
to be 2015?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even that would have been too long.
Yeah, well, even 2015 is right there on the border. But now he's saying 2022, and is it any doubt at this point that James Cameron's more of a perfectionist than Kubrick was?
Oh boy, I don't know. Yeah,
I guess so.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Kubrick is a better director, obviously, but Cameron's a more perfectionist.
I think
Cameron.
Cameron is
especially
just,
when it comes to gadgets.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think he's more of an inventor than a filmmaker anymore, and he's just inventing gadgets that have to do with film when it comes to the Avatar sequels. Whereas back when he was making Terminator 2, Aliens, I think he was a filmmaker who liked to invent techniques and new gear and whatnot. And I think he's gotten a little obsessed maybe with I'm inventing mostly.
He must be because just like Kubrick, to continue that, like he's taking longer and longer and longer and longer in between movies, right? You got Terminator and Terminator 2.
It was so 3 years to Titanic from True Lies, and then it was 12 years from Titanic to Avatar.
Yeah.
And now it's 10 from that last one, and it will be 13 if he gets to 2022.
Yeah.
And, he may have to get to a point where he gives this to somebody else to direct if he's just doing these gadget things that you're talking about.
Didn't they use some of his gadget for Alita Battle Angel?
Yeah.
He
was a part. He's a big producer on that.
He was a producer. And so maybe he could do something like that, like get a Robert Rodriguez or somebody to take over and use
I have
his
a
shit.
feeling he's going to have to. And he's getting to that point where by 2022 he should be about 70.
Oh yeah,
I think he's going to be somewhere around there at that point. And if he keeps on like having to be the perfect movie every time, then he won't be able to finish it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it would be wrong to undersell the possibility of that sequel being a huge hit. I don't think it would be as big as it would have been, but it still is going to be huge when they come out with it. Then after this, we have, right on the same spectrum, The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
Well, I'm proud to say I never saw this movie.
Oh, really?
And looked like a turd from day one.
Yeah, there was a period of time where Eddie Murphy had the comeback with Nutty Professor. And everything he did after that was sort of just either trying to be a kid's movie and trying to get that same magic. So he did Haunted Mansion, or he also did stuff like Holy Man, and just a lot of really forgettable movies right after that Nutty Professor comeback. And this is one I don't know. I don't think I even saw this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember the previews coming out, and I was like, no.
They bet big on this.
Yeah.
It was Warner Brothers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Warner Brothers. And I forget what the budget was.
Oh,
the budget was $100 million.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was huge.
And it grossed 7.1.
Oh, my God.
Like, this is up there with, like, Heaven's Gate as, like, the biggest flops ever.
Yeah. Was Rosario Dawson in this?
Yes, it was Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
And Randy Quaid. Talk about a guy who's gone way sideways. This is Randy Quaid. But, I mean, I think he was riding so high because all those movies that you mentioned were big box office successes, right? Like The Nutty Professor and all
Nutty
that stuff.
Professor was.
Yeah.
Everything after that, no. Haunted Mansion didn't do what they expected it to do. Holy Man was not. It was not at all. I think he also had Metro in there at one point. That cop
with
movie.
Michael Rappaport.
Yeah, Michael Rappaport. And Metro might have come out. No, I think it did come out after Nutty Professor.
Oh, yeah.
And then there were a ton of others in there. I mean, Norbit came out in 2006.
Yeah, so that was after this.
Yeah.
Bowfinger was back in that era.
Yeah, Bowfinger was, it was definitely, that might be the only good movie he made in that whole thing.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't a hit.
Right, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big pile of shit. I watched that out of morbid curiosity much later after it came out, just to see, like, you know, they sunk this much money into it. Eddie Murphy's a funny guy. He's playing like a con man, basically. And we've seen that turn out well in, like, The Distinguished Gentleman and stuff like that. And it was bad. Yeah. It's set on the moon, and, like, he's trying to open like a whore bed, like a nightclub, a nightclub for whores.
A whore bed?
Whore nun.
New York's hottest club is whore bed.
Anyway, it looked like it had potential, but man, it's awful.
Looking at Eddie Murphy here, okay, so Metro came after the first movie he came out with after Nutty Professor. Then he was a big voice guy. He was in Mulan. He was the dragon in that. Dr. Dolittle did very well. That was a huge hit.
That's true.
Holy Man did not do well. Life did not do well.
Oh, yeah.
Bowfinger came out the same year. Then he had Nutty Professor 2, which didn't do well at all. I think it did okay, but it wasn't nearly what the original did. Maybe, and or it could be one of those weird ones where the original did okay and this one still did more, but not.
Oh, yeah.
But not a big hit. I can't remember which one it did. Then Shrek, obviously. Dr. Dolittle 2, I think may have been a decent hit. But then he's got Showtime. That didn't do anything. The Adventures of Pluto Nash. I Spy.
Owen Wilson.
Wow.
Yeah, Daddy Daycare did okay.
Yeah.
The Haunted Mansion. I would actually like to see the grosses on these, because some of these are going to be like middling hits and others are going to be complete tank jobs. But then you have Dreamgirls and then Norbit.
My girlfriend and I broke up in college because I wouldn't give her a tank job.
Yeah, I know.
A what job?
Was she a
tank job?
Was she a tank girl? Then we have Airplane 2, the sequel. This movie got made without the Zucker brothers. I think they may have like a producer credit or something.
I think so, yeah.
But it wasn't them. They didn't write it. They didn't direct it. And yes, they go into space. It's in the future, so there's a lot of these jokes. Like, there's a poster in the background that says Rocky 38, and it has like, you know, it's the same Rocky 3 poster, but it's got 38. But yeah, they're in a space shuttle. They got William Shatner's in this. Yep. There's a Star Trek sort of spoof to it and everything, but this movie isn't bad.
It's not.
It's got perfectly fine jokes in it.
It's nowhere near the original.
Hell no. You can tell that the Zuckers aren't really involved with this.
Yeah.
But this came out, I think, the year after.
Yeah. Well, it was 82.
So 2 years after.
2 years after.
But yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's got jokes in it that are good, and there's others where you're like, yeah, you're trying too hard. you saw the first movie and you thought this is what your joke was, but it's not. Yeah, they're perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Then we have Barbarella.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, there are two versions of this. One is the one that's got all the sex and nudity in it, and then there's one that they cut down to like basically a PG.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I don't know what. I know that they've been playing the shit out of Barbarella lately.
Oh, I think I've seen it too. Yeah, I haven't clicked on it, but
Jane Fonda's in it.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen this movie start to finish, but I've seen a lot of parts of it.
Yeah.
And it's your typical like really outdated 1960s sci-fi.
Yep.
It is. It is. I'll tell you what though, Jane Fonda was adorable.
Oh my God, she's so beautiful.
And actually I read the Hollywood Reporter put out like this female comics roundtable with like Maya Rudolph and the Fleabag woman, Phoebe Waller-Cates, Phoebe Waller-Bridges, right? And Tiffany Haddish and like people like that, Alex Borstein and Jane Fonda. And she was, they were talking about like nudity and like what guys could get away with asking for and things like that. And she was like, you know what? Yeah, when I was doing Barbarella, I had the looks to do it, and I'm glad I did, at that point. And I mean, she carries this film basically. I mean, Marcel Marceau was in this, and like a few other people that you would recognize.
Yeah, there's also a character name in here, isn't it? Durand.
Durand.
Yeah,
yes.
which so that's where the band got their name.
I think so. Yeah.
It is. It's for. I think it's for fact that they got their name from this, but they thought it was Duran, not Duran to Duran, because they don't really pronounce that D
right
in the movie, but. I saw a movie that might have. I don't know if it was making fun of this. We're not making fun, but it feels like it was sort of in the same era. But that movie CQ with Jeremy Davies. He's a would-be movie director, and he's. I don't know if he's the director of this movie that they're shooting. They're shooting a movie in the movie, and it shows like how he's obsessed with being a director and everything. But it's got the movie that they're shooting is like this female James Bond type of thing in space. But it was directed by, I believe, Roman Coppola, one of the Coppolas. Really? Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't realize he had done much as far as directing, at least.
Yeah, it's one of the Coppolas did that, and
Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah, Schwartzman is in it, I think.
Oh really?
Schwartzman plays an asshole director guy that they want him to shoot the movie, but something happens to him. But anyway, would we recommend Barbarella?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is. It's Jeremy's giving the grit teeth.
I would give like the same caveat as like Jason and the Argonauts, or like the original. What was the Swords and Sandals thing that was remade just recently?
What, Clash of the Titans?
Clash of the Titans, things like that. It's a time capsule movie. Jane Fonda is worth watching this by herself, though.
Yeah, it's. I think it's fun to watch as a relic.
Sure. Yeah. Don't go in expecting like Avatar.
Two people in this room have seen The Black Hole. I have not.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Boy. This is a weird movie.
It's
a Disney movie.
It is, man. And this was shown in my early childhood in my house more than Star Wars. Like this was the sci-fi film. And I think a lot of it had to do with that Disney name.
Yeah.
Disney's on this. But I mean, in terms of like fucked upness, like this beats Star Wars hands down.
Yeah, man.
The ship is amazing. I probably haven't seen it since I was 7 years old. I really want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I bet you the effects are terrible.
I watched a little bit of it in prep just to remind myself of it. They hold up a little bit better because I don't think they swung for the moon technically.
Yeah.
So I think they hold up a little better than they should.
All right. I remember that little robot guy. I liked him.
Well, there was a bunch of. Oh well, yeah. There was the helpful robot, and then there were the faceless droids.
Yeah, those guys are scary.
Those guys were scary as shit. And the most scary part of this movie is the end, where he does a 2001 thing.
Oh yeah,
where he goes through this black hole, and it's this trippy psychedelic sequence where Maximilian Schell becomes one with his evil faceless drone guy, and then he goes to hell, and then he goes to heaven, and it's a whole fucking thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nightmare fuel.
It is absolutely
6-year-old me. Like, mom probably just was like, hey, watch this. I'm going to go, in the other room and not pay attention to the scarring that's about to go down.
Well, did you watch it multiple times, though?
Oh, yeah, a bunch of times.
I thought
we taped it off TV or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Anthony Perkins is one of the scientist guys, or the astronaut
Robert
guys.
Forster's in it, too.
Mm-hmm.
And Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if it holds up at all.
It came out in 1979.
Yeah.
That's for some reason, every time somebody's brought this up, because people my age bring up the black hole, I always thought it was like 1982, 83, somewhere around there.
I believe, yes, this was the first Disney movie to ever get a PG rating.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
And they maybe should have gone up to PG.
So that means it wouldn't be suitable for
it wasn't there.
advertisers
Yeah.
on YouTube?
Yeah. Yes,
Because
exactly.
it's PG?
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies that you watch before 1984. They're like, this is PG? This is fucked up. Then we have Captain EO. And yes, could you only see this at Epcot?
MTV, back in the late 80s, early 90s, aired this a few times.
Mm-hmm.
It was a recut version of the one that they show at Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw it when I was a little kid at Disney World, and I do remember seeing it on MTV because I was in a big Michael Jackson phase at that point. It was 89 or something like that, right after Man in the Mirror and all that stuff came out. And so I watched it, and I think I may have liked it at that point, but I also think I probably said, this isn't very good.
Yeah. I forgot that it was at Disney World. I did, because I think there were back-to-back trips I took when I was a kid to Disney World and then to Epcot, and I have those completely confused in my head. I just remember Epcot being boring as fuck for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, man, it's my jam now.
Oh, fuck yeah.
when I was 14, I was like, boring land.
This is amazing. So Michael Jackson is like the leader of this ragtag group of bandits and shit like that. Mm-hmm. This was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, written by George Lucas.
Yikes.
Everything, there's so many talented people in this fucking, like, involved with this project. The movie is not very good.
Yeah. Well, it's probably exactly what we think it is. Like, it was, hey, let's do this, and then somebody was like, okay, and ran out of the room and wrote the script, and then they're like, let's get this shot today, and
it looks like it was shot in one day.
Yeah, Coppola's on set.
Yeah.
You know what's weird is that, like, Michael Jackson was in that, the Thriller video mini movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's in, Smooth Criminal, I think, became like an expanded thing. And it looks like he's just not, and he's in this, and it looks like he's a terrible actor. Mm-hmm. But, like, you watch The Wiz, like, he's really good in The Wiz. And he's playing, like, a nuanced character.
Okay.
For a scarecrow.
The Smooth Criminal thing you're talking about is Moonwalker.
Moonwalker,
right?
That's
right. Captain EO. I don't remember anything about it. I know I saw it, though, when I was a kid.
I mean, it's like, space bandits trying to avoid getting captured by the government.
Okay.
Yay.
This is such a great movie. Dark City.
Ooh.
Well, I think we can spoil this.
Yeah, it's been 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
But Dark City, by the inclusion of it being in our space episode, we are spoiling it. But this was the follow-up Alex Proyas had to The Crow.
Mm-hmm.
And another guy who came up and just like he's making these movies that are like, man, he's hitting it out of the park, and then what happened to him?
Yeah.
He just kind of fell off the face of the earth. I mean, he did iRobot, I think, and that was his biggest hit. But I don't think he's done anything really since. I mean, I'm sure if you go down his filmography, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that, but you didn't know it was him.
Yeah.
But
Gods of Egypt is the last thing he did.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Anyway, this is a great movie. It's got Rufus Sewell, Jennifer Connelly, William Hurt. And these people are being sort of they're being sent to sleep essentially while the people who are really in charge, the aliens or whatever, start rearranging things and everything. So they cover up for murders and all sorts of stuff going on in the city. And there's only one person who's not affected by it, and it's Rufus Sewell, who would later be the go-to bad guy. So it's kind of weird seeing him as the good guy in this movie. But he knows something's up, and the aliens or the people in charge or whatever know that he's escaping all of this. And so these creatures are obsessed with they have a fear of water, of course. They always do,
as you do in your name.
But a movie that's just very highly creative, well done. It's like a noir in space. Kiefer Sutherland's in it too.
Looks beautiful, and it's weird to say because it literally is a dark city. It's like night all the time. But the visuals are just awesome.
Well, I think there's talk of let's get outside of the city, and they just never are able to get, because once they get to the border, I can't remember what the issue is with the border of the city.
It's a poster.
Is it a poster?
Yeah,
but they're almost Truman Show-esque.
Yeah.
Being led away from that.
Yeah.
They don't ever want to explore it. And then by the end of it, you find out that they're on this freaking rock in the middle of space, and everything's artificial.
It's trippy,
yeah.
Especially if you're in a certain state of mind.
Yes. I don't know what you mean by that.
I don't either.
I think we've recommended Dark City before. We've talked about it maybe once or twice, but here again, recommending it again.
Yeah, totally.
Great movie. Then there is John Carpenter's Dark Star. He did this in college, I believe.
Yeah.
The movie is crazy. It's a crazy movie. And it's almost, even though it came out well before Airplane and all that, it's almost Airplane-esque the movie is not like gag a minute or anything.
Right.
But there's just weird things in it about they want to shoot they don't want to shoot this missile, but the missile is like, hey, you told me that you were going to launch me, and now I'm ready to launch. Now convince me that I shouldn't be launched. And so they go through this whole intellectual thing with the missile and everything in this. Yeah, it's like three guys who are up in space, and I can't remember. They're supposed to their purpose is to bomb planets or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Something of that nature. And there's a point where they're about to do it, and they have everything set up, and then something happens that says, no, we can't do this. But the missile's already it's communicating to them. It's like, no, you told me that I was going to blow up, and this is what my purpose is.
Such a weird idea.
Yeah. And I don't think that's the whole movie, but it is a good portion of it is them trying to convince them, almost what we'd later see in war games where they're trying to convince the computer that the nuclear war is not the option.
Yeah.
I recommend this because it is Carpenter. This is as raw Carpenter as you get. And it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
You can watch this on YouTube.
I that's where I did watch it actually recently. I may have told this story before, but John Carpenter grew up in Bowling Green, Kentucky, just a little bit north of here. And that's where my dad grew up, basically, went to high school and things like that, and went to Western Kentucky University, which is located there. And Carpenter also went to Western Kentucky before he transferred to USC. And he came back to screen Dark Star in 74, 75 or something like that. And my dad was the primary AV guy, and he got to show it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So he's met and had dinner with John Carpenter.
Yeah, got to show a Legends film before he was a legend.
Before Halloween even
Did
came
he
out.
splice in single frames of penises?
All the time. All the time. If I had a nickel for every story my dad told me about slicing in dongs, splicing, not slicing dongs, splicing dongs.
You know what's weird is that every projection booth is built with a reel of porn just waiting there.
Snip.
So that you can just go in and put porn in cartoons.
Yep.
It's very strange.
It's funny in Fight Club. There's that shot where he keeps saying and stressing that nobody notices it, right? But then it cuts to that little girl who starts crying.
Well, he says right after that, she doesn't know what she saw, but she saw it.
Oh. That's right.
Something to that effect, because you can see it's shot from the audience's perspective, and you see the flash, and then the mom is like, did I really see that? Nobody'd be stupid enough to do that, right? But the kid is like, I don't know what I saw, but, I'm horrified.
Did I ever tell you about my old professor at Louisville? He was one of those profilers. He was Ron Holmes is his name. Mm-hmm. He was a criminal profiler and had a weird sense of humor. And in his lecture hall, you'd never be able to get away with this today, I don't think. Mm-hmm. Like probably 100 student lecture hall, he would show slides of these terrible crime scenes. And every once in a while, he'd click the slide, and it would be a parrot sitting on top of an erect penis. and he wouldn't say anything, but he would let it go for about 10 seconds, and then he'd keep going.
That's awesome.
There was this smattering.
Because everybody's sitting there going, what is this for?
And then you hear the ripples of laughter come out.
Well, especially when he just goes past it and never talks about it. Then we have a movie called Dead Space, and it's 2 sequels, and I've never seen this.
Oh, yeah. Roger Corman produced this. It was 1991, so I did accidentally see this. But yeah, it was Mark Singer and Bryan Cranston were the 2 main people that I remember. It's they're exploring Saturn. All right, and that's about it. I don't know how they got 2 sequels.
A deadly virus attacks the crew of a Saturn space station.
Yeah.
As it does. Don't go to Saturn, people.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Then we have Dune, David Lynch Dune. God. Yeah, oh boy is right.
I'm already building walls for when this Villeneuve movie comes out, for all the people to tell me how I don't understand it. I never cared about Dune. I tried to read it, didn't like it. I tried to watch it, didn't like it. Everybody's all geeked out about Dune. Dune, it's the guy who did Blade Runner is doing Dune. And I'm like, I don't care. Just make a different movie.
You're not looking forward to it?
Not at all.
Because you don't like the original story.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen or read any Dune that made sense to me, that I cared about. It's just too...
The book is... Because I never read the book. I saw the movie, and of course there's this Lynchian spin on it, basically, to where it's almost intentionally obfuscating.
It's a little, it is, but it isn't. Like the Lynch Dune is got some weird stuff in it, but it's not like
it's not like Twin Peaks,
like Wild at Heart or
no,
something
no,
like that.
No.
But I saw this in theaters, and in fact, I know that one of our cold opens was "Let Me Spit on Your Face."
Yeah,
that's in this. I saw this as a 7-year-old kid.
Ooh, that's weird.
It's a rough movie.
It is.
But since then, I'm not sure if I've seen parts of it since then, and I don't. It's never really appealed to me much either. I've read the book too, because I read that way back in college. But I've never been a big Dune person either. But
yeah. I mean, it seems like a straightforward story. What I meant by the typical Lynchian thing is that it looks like it takes a straightforward story and makes it weird, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was just the movie being intentional about that, but because they're on the search for this spice stuff, right? That gives you superhuman abilities and stuff like that. That's the currency for everything, right?
As best I can recall.
Yeah, the spice. Yeah, that's the big deal with that movie is the spice.
It's that movie's dry land.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but the book itself is kind of like that too.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I read the book 24 years ago, so I don't remember everything about it either. But yeah, it's the main conflict is the spice, I believe, and then him riding the sandworms or whatever through there, and it's one of those post-apocalyptic type of things, or maybe
John Carter of Mad Max.
Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, I'm looking forward to what Villeneuve does with it.
Obviously, I will watch it because his work is visually stunning, and at least so far, all of it is. I wasn't looking forward to Blade Runner 2049 either, and I ended up liking that more than the original. And I like it more every time I see it. So I may end up I just don't have that built-in excitement level. Like you go online and you see people's Twitter accounts saying the spice must flow, and I'm like, God, I don't even. How can you be like? I don't connect.
Know. My cousin named his cat Spice after this.
Really?
Are you sure it wasn't after Sporty Spice?
No, it was definitely.
It just goes to show if you have any kind of science fiction novel that takes off like that one did. I mean, you're gonna have the nut balls for it.
I can't wait until there's Abel's nut balls.
Yeah.
Well, they'll all be naming their kids normal names.
Yeah.
Like Philip
Sure.
and Henry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Dune fans. I don't think any of us are like huge Dune fans in here, so we can't really give it due its justice or whatever. But I don't think the movie, the one that we currently have, is like considered high regard, although it got like a boost recently in the past few years as something better than it was back in the 80s when it came out. I think
so. And then they had that whole documentary that Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I did. And that was, I did. Wait a minute. Did I see that?
I never saw it. It looked really fascinating.
I think I did. At least I know that it was that he had everything set up. He even had, I think, H.R. Giger doing creature designs and everything. This is before Alien.
Oh,
they had all the sets and everything drawn up and everything, and I actually can't remember what happened to that production.
I don't know. But
it's probably money.
It got submarined.
Ender's Game is the next one. Talk about another huge sci-fi novel getting its movie treatment, considered unfilmable for the longest time because it was mostly narration. And then it finally came out, and I love the book, and I really like the movie.
It's a good movie, right?
I liked the movie a lot.
Yeah.
It's got a couple of things I would do differently, but for the most part, it really works. And this is one of those mysteries to me, and I know that the author has, since the books have been published, I guess has espoused some far right views, and that may have complicated the being able to promote this film. But yeah, I mean, Harrison Ford, Ben Kingsley, you had Haley Steinfeld and Asa Butterfield, two of the hot up and coming young actors. It looks slick as hell. Like when they're up there in space doing simulation, it looks real, man. I don't like.
Yeah,
it could be one of those situations where I didn't see the movie in the theater, and it was like a year or two after it came out, and I watched it, didn't have any expectations for it whatsoever, and turned out to be fine by me. And I read the book, and the book is one of those like, on the pedestal type of things. And I mean, again, I read this book also 24 years ago because I was in that class that read those books, but like. I had held the book in high regard, and I still like the movie. It could be that I had some distance between it, though, too.
Is the book good all the way through, or is it just
you
the
can
end
snap
that really...
through that in a day almost? That's how good it is.
So the end just punctuates how good it is.
Yeah,
because that ending is just killer.
Yeah,
and the ending in the movie's the same as the book, right?
Yeah,
essentially. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, and I'm not like the expert on the book or anything. It seemed like it basically had the story that I read in it. And I know that some people who really know Harry Potter books are like, yeah, but you took out this and that, and like the shit that doesn't fucking matter in the movie at all. It's just like, yeah, that was kind of cool in the book, but that's the reason why it's in the book and not in the movie. So there might be something in that Ender's Game that they didn't film that wasn't the same, but really just felt like the same thing to me, and it was the same ending, and it was the same everything except for maybe a couple of differences.
Yeah, the one big reveal is the same.
Okay.
And I think that there might have been more training stuff in the book, but that's it.
There's plenty
like
of training
in the movie,
stuff.
In the movie, it does seem like they get to that big ending part too soon for what they've done. But I'm going to quibble over the fact that they didn't put two more training things in there, you know? So I really enjoyed Ender's Game. I know that a lot of people didn't, but whatever.
Did it get middling reviews?
Yeah, it was not well reviewed.
Really?
Didn't make a ton of money either.
Yeah. Wow.
And I don't know if all that the Orson Scott Card stuff came out around the movie, but that couldn't have helped either. 6.6 on the IMDb, which is what Dune is at, in fact.
Interesting.
So I think most people enjoy it. It's just that it wasn't considered slam dunk, and I guess it's not a slam dunk movie, but it's good.
Yeah, it is.
A movie that I saw forever ago, but that you two know way more than I do. Event Horizon.
I don't know it very well.
Oh, you know it more than I do. If you can pick out one scene from that movie, you know it better than I do.
I don't even know if I could do that.
Sam Neill without eyes.
I was an assistant manager of a 3-screen when this movie came out. Had actors in it I liked. It was sci-fi. Wasn't really quite aware of the horror elements that were coming along with it. And so I watched it. It's one of the most notorious, like, Thursday night watches for me. I fucking hated it because it scared me a couple times and never once entertained me.
Yeah.
Not even for a second. This is a classic premise, though, where, like, there's a ship that's floating around out there, and this crew comes out to check out what's happened to them and what's going on, and then they find out that there's some kind of demon, something, blood.
Yeah, the floating ship that needs to be rescued is the plot point of, like, 70% of these movies that we're running through in space.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Event Horizon that's out there, like, marooned.
That's the name of the ship, yeah.
Yeah, and exactly, I should say that. And Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill, who's like the doctor or whatever, and who's the girl in it? It's Jolie Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
And Kathleen Quinlan go out and try to rescue it, and they found that it's been inhabited by some sort of evil presence.
Mm-hmm.
Evil.
Yes, and that evil presence infects them, and it fucks with them. It fucks with them so much that Sam Neill pops his eyeballs out.
Yeah.
See, that is the kind of thing that I would watch and go, this movie sucks. I don't ever want to think about it again.
It really is bad.
I have this movie and Supernova side by side in my memory. They probably didn't come out as close together as I think they did, but they were both sci-fi movies with great casts that ended up sucking ass that involved like some kind of demon presence, ghost something, taking over something.
I was excited to watch this, and I was really, it's Paul W.S. Anderson.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Who doesn't have a great track record.
No, I was about to run through this, by the way.
Oh, please do, because it's the polar opposite of Paul Thomas Anderson.
Right. This isn't one of those things where you just like, maybe, except for one movie, maybe.
Yes.
Mortal Kombat is the one maybe, the one that you can give him a maybe on.
Yeah.
Event Horizon. Then there's the Kurt Russell movie called Soldier.
That wasn't very good.
Then he did Resident Evil, Alien versus Predator, which is hot garbage. Death Race, not bad. It's a fun movie.
Did you have fun with it?
Yeah, especially the Joan Allen shit. That's
Yeah.
She has a line in there that I cannot recite right now, but it's phenomenal. Then Resident Evil Afterlife.
Oof.
The Three Musketeers from 2011 that had Logan Lerman, and that's all who I can really.
That's been playing on the movie channels fairly
Which
recently.
one?
The 2011 Three Musketeers with Logan Lerman.
I haven't seen that.
Resident Evil Retribution.
Oh.
Pompeii, which has our boy Kit Harington in it.
And girly girl Camilla Bell.
Oh, yeah, Camilla.
No, she's in 10,000 BC.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Pompeii and 10,000 BC, same fucking movie.
It's Emily Browning who's in Pompeii.
Sucker Punch.
Yeah, and Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. So he's done 3 or 4 Resident Evil movies, and that's it.
2 bad ones. The first one was watchable.
First one's watchable. The other ones are garbage.
Yeah.
But Paul W.S. Anderson.
I'd still hire him before I hired Uwe Boll.
yeah, for sure.
Yes, I think so.
Then we have The Fifth Element, which came out the same year, by the way. Luc Besson.
This is such a great movie.
This movie is so insane. I believe he wrote the script when he was 15.
Yeah.
And it was like some 4 or 5 hour tome of some sort. And then when he actually makes this movie, you can tell like 15-year-old Luc Besson is still making this.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Especially any scenes having to do with the girl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A 15-year-old definitely directed that first scene.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And in fact, everywhere it seems like that he has a chance to put Mila Jovovich in a scene where she can just like, well, I'm just I don't know anything. I'm just I'm just gonna strip and everything. That's what he does with her. It's she's the fifth element. That's the there's water, there's air, there's earth, there's
fire,
earth, wind, and fire.
Because you've got that one. Call me, my man. You got a match.
Yeah,
you got the one that's like already burned a little bit, but they somehow get it to catch fire.
Yeah,
I don't know. This movie's okay. Can I say that this movie is great while also saying it's like 2 hairs away from being awful?
Oh yeah,
right?
For
like,
sure.
It's walking such a fine line,
especially when Chris Tucker shows up.
Yes.
That Chris Tucker stuff, man, it's good in doses. I'm glad it doesn't go much farther than it does.
No, by the end of it, when he's screaming, when they're in the temple and stuff like that, and he's doing all that chitter chatter, you're like, if I have 5 more minutes of this, I'm probably gonna have to get up and leave.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love it the way I thought. All the stuff on Lost in Paradise is great. I know it's over the top for him, but it works for me.
Yeah, another great cast here. Gary Oldman coming back into the Luc Besson fray after The Professional. Bruce Willis, still Karen. This movie's just fun. It was just made to be fun.
Yep.
And there's so many. It's insane, but it's insanely watchable.
It really does. And like you have no idea what's coming next. Like I don't even understand like where Corbin Dallas lives. Like it's in like this, like the stacks in Ready Player One or something like that, because it's made up of like old subway cars or something like that. And then you have that thing that fake out where he's eating at a bar, like sushi or something like that, and he's talking to the restaurant guy, and then it pans back and he's in his apartment, and the restaurant guy floats by and everything. You're like, wow. It's weird.
Yeah.
The whole give me the cash thing.
Yeah, give me the cash.
Doing a little dance.
It's a Matthew Kasovitz who's in Amelie is the guy who's give me the cash. This is one of the best trailers ever put together, by the way, Fifth Element. If you ever watched they did one that was a teaser that I think there are 2 trailers, but the one that's just all music, badass. And we talked about Dark City, also has one of the best trailers of all time. If you've never seen Fifth Element, watch that trailer and then watch the movie afterwards.
It's got one of the best, at least in the moment. It comes off as a little cheesier the more that you watch it, but that opera scene, when I first watched it, I was fucking pumped, man, because so it starts off as like this beautiful libretto type of thing, and this giant blue diva, and then like it turns into like a techno thing, but she's still singing like operatically, and it cuts back and forth to her doing her thing and Mila Jovovich kicking ass in the room with the stones and all that, and then the more you watch it, the more it comes off as a little corny. But it was awesome the first time I saw it.
Interesting that Flash Gordon is a sci-fi, a space movie, but Flash Gordon was all on Earth.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. I think almost all of Flash Gordon is on Earth.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
But yeah.
Flash Gordon came out 6 years before Flash Gordon, which, Flash Gordon is a serial thing that, but the movies, it's weird. Flash Gordon came out first. So you've seen this.
I have.
J'accuse.
Yeah, you know what's funny about this? Blockbuster had this. They were really the only video chain that wouldn't have porn. Like even Hollywood Video had porn. Like the other like smaller companies had like their back room and all that. And so there was a limit to how far Blockbuster would go with its nudie movies, right? And Flash Gordon made the cut. So
yeah, it's weird that you say that. I don't know what era this was. Like they draw the line, I guess, at what, penetration? Is that it?
So. There were some like, I think they didn't have NC-17 movies there.
Because I remember going to my Podunk one in Franklin, and every time I went to go rent movies, it was Basic Instinct and all of their all of the things, the movies that Basic Instinct spawned before it was a Cinemax
Sliver
thing.
And all that, yeah.
Before it was a Cinemax thing, though. Like I'm talking about Animal Instincts and stuff with Shannon Worry and Joan Sefrins, these type of movies. So is Flash Gordon? Is it?
I just watched scenes.
Scenes, okay.
Does it have any penetration?
No, it doesn't have. It's softcore porn, basically.
Do you want to publish Scenes and Rage Against Machines?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it has a corny 70s look to it. It's all like phallic puns, like Dr. Boner and shit like that. And, you just watch it for the softcore sex scenes.
Do you think this was made in response to Deep Throat and stuff like that? Because this came out in 1974.
Maybe.
Like as more of a mainstream. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, I think it was a straight sexploitation parody. I think just like what's the classic Star Wars porn parody?
Revenge of the Shit.
The cereal.
The one in the Kevin Smith movie?
Yeah. Revenge of the Shit.
Is that what was in?
That's one of them.
Mary made.
It's one of them. Yeah.
They do a new. Is it A New Hole?
I think they may do that actually.
I would not recommend Flesh Gordon by any stretch.
Then we have a great movie, Galaxy Quest.
Oh, I just watched this last week.
Yeah, it's this is a movie that it wasn't a big hit. And did we had something at Regal.
We didn't get this
We
movie.
didn't get the movie because DreamWorks wanted, 99% of the take or something? Yeah, one of those money things.
What was the regular amount that they would take?
You might know
95?
this. You might know this more than I do, Jeremy, but I always was told that it was always high, like on that first week. And then obviously it drops as it goes further. But once they started going to that 98, 99% type of thing and dictating where the movies had to play for how many ever weeks, like Star Wars did, Star Wars was always like, we have to be in the big theaters for 4 weeks and you can't take it out for any reason or else we yank the movie.
And were those usually like 99% deals?
I believe the Star Wars one was probably somewhere around there. If they didn't negotiate it to 98, 99, it might have been 96, 97.
Wow. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make some money.
I just don't think about it being that high.
Yeah. This is, by the way, and maybe someone out there knows, but this is something that as a movie theater worker, I never understood. Like, our district managers, especially when I was in New York, was like, get everybody that you can into this movie. If it sells out, be sure to interlock it and, talk to your home office about what you can cancel and all this. And I was like, don't you make more money as the movie continues?
Yeah.
Like, I know you want to get that concession dollar and everything. That's a big thing. I understand that. I never understood the obsession with getting everybody that you could in on that first weekend.
Yeah.
When your profits go up as the movie plays, and especially if it's sold out, I always thought that people were like, "Okay, well, it's sold out, must be good," and they come back later, and that's how that happens. But I never understood that. Let's get everybody in on that first weekend when we don't make that much money on the movie itself. We do make the concession dollar, but. Galaxy Quest is a fantastic. It's one of those. It's how you're supposed to do parodies, right?
Yep.
Star Trek parody through and through, but it's not saying you're dumb for liking Star Trek. In fact, it embraces.
Yeah, it rewards it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think a lot of times movies that try to be parodies, they don't get right. They make fun of you for liking the movies.
Yeah,
they're pointing at you as well. And then it's like, we kind of like what's going on here, and that's what Galaxy Quest is.
Yeah, this is also what Rob Schneider said about Donald Trump on Saturday Night Live. Alec Baldwin's impression of Trump was that you need to have something to root for in a guy. It's all out negative here, so that it's just pretty. I shouldn't have brought that up again.
I remember him saying that actually,
but it's like Galaxy Quest does that to a T, right? It's not making fun of Trek fans.
No.
It is,
even though initially the characters are making fun of them.
Well, and I think even the movie is, but it's only because the movie itself is a Trek fan and it's able to laugh at its own silly parts, but also see the merit that others don't, and the whole thing about family.
Well, and it even shows your main character Tim Allen being very disrespectful of the fans.
Yep.
And then realizing that, they have way more value later on and everything, and that I should have been nicer to these guys. These are the guys who are giving me a career and allowing me to do what I like to do. Yep. And that's the best part of it. I think that's the best part of this movie is him having to call Justin Long and Justin Long being like talking to all of his friends and saying, what do we know about it? Because the ship is made based on the show.
Yeah. It's basically Apollo 13, right? They're like figuring out what can go where. And
his mom is Costanza's wife.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Susan.
Yeah.
Carol. That's from Friends. Yeah, Susan plays Justin Long's mom.
That's right.
Scene.
And but yeah, I don't know how many out there haven't seen Galaxy Quest, but this is a 100% recommend.
I think it's on Netflix.
It is because I just watched it on Netflix, I think. But guy from The Office that everybody loves,
Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson is in
Oh,
this
that's
movie.
right. Yeah.
There's a lot of people playing the aliens that became famous for other stuff later.
Mm-hmm.
Like the main alien is the dad from Veronica Mars.
Yeah, it's Enrico Palazzi something, whatever.
Enrico Palazzi.
Oh, Colin Tony.
No, it's Enrico something.
Enrico Colin Tony.
Oh, Colin. I thought you said his name was Colin Tony.
But one of the female aliens, the one that falls in love with Fred.
Missy Pyle?
Yeah, Missy Pyle. Yeah.
Mhm,
So
yeah.
there's people that are all over this movie that would later on be. Even Justin Long wasn't that famous yet.
That scene where Missy Pyle and Tony Shalhoub are like getting on, and like there's like the tentacles that come out, and Sam Rockwell's watching it, and he's like, "Oh, that's not right." Oh. I love that movie.
Just leave, man. You don't have to watch more.
Then we have another John Carpenter movie called Ghosts of Mars, and I don't think I saw this.
Oh.
This has Ice Cube, Natasha Henstridge,
Jason
Statham, Pam Grier, Clea
man.
Duvall.
It's bad. It's bad.
I hate this movie.
It's bad. Like it's set at night because they're obviously shooting on a soundstage. It's set on Mars because they're obviously shooting on a soundstage. There's a train. It's basically a zombie movie on Mars with a freight train. And there's one laugh out loud moment with Ice Cube where somebody like accidentally cuts their hand off or something. Something very violent and shocking, and Ice Cube just starts laughing.
Yeah.
And it's funny as hell.
Is there a point where he's like, "You mean those snakes out there this big?"
I did watch part of that again.
Oh, really?
I thought this movie's going to surprise me. It's aged well. I bet no.
Which movies?
Anaconda.
Oh shit!
Anacondas.
Oh,
John
his
Voight.
accent is so bad.
I don't know what happened to John Carpenter. I mean, we talked about this briefly at some point, but like
I think
in the '90s, he just.
I think he's one of those guys who was essentially an independent director. And once studios started being owned by corporations and everything, he didn't have a real say in how movies were. And plus, age factor. Let's be real. There is an age factor to a lot of these guys that they just don't really know how to make a movie that people will respond to. But I also think that a lot of times that you see some guys who had these great 70s and 80s careers, and then they suddenly can't make a great movie anymore. And I think it's because of that. I think it's because the studios aren't the studios anymore. Studios are, Sony and and Comcast and all these. They're not really those, care about that. It's not a big part of their bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, after you got Big Trouble in Little China, which I like.
Yeah, that's good.
I never saw Prince of Darkness in '87.
Nah,
They Live is a good one. And then you've got, starting here, Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Yeah. I want my molecules back.
Body Bags. In the Mouth of Madness, I remember being somewhat watchable, but it was also weird.
I don't remember.
That's Sam Neill again. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. Village of the Damned was terrible. Escape from
Christopher
LA.
Reeve. You're supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel something.
Escape from LA was hot garbage.
Yeah, Escape from LA. Holy shit.
Vampires was hot garbage. Ghost of Mars was hot garbage. And then he didn't direct anything until The Ward in 2010, which I never saw.
Yeah, it was that late 80s where something happened there. And he had, Memoirs of Invisible Man it's okay.
I could see both studio involvement and Chevy Chase being a dick, causing that movie to happen.
Could be.
He wrecked John Carpenter's career.
Could be Daryl Hannah being a dick. Let's not be sexist. No, I'm just.
She has a history of being a dick.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, something happened there where I think can you imagine what it's like? You make your movies the way you want to make them. Then the studio starts saying, "Well, I need you to do this and this and this and this," and then you start getting confused as to what's good anymore, right?
I guess so, because he went from excellent to garbage instead of yeah, well, all right, that's okay. Like even Paul W.S. Anderson, like we found some little oasis in there, you know. But yeah, it's a shame. And you know, he scored this most recent Halloween, or he contributed to the score there.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Next movie on the list is Gravity.
Oh,
So I just watched
George
this
Clooney died
2 days ago, and it is almost a perfect movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about this movie. By the way, I've talked about this movie before, and I noted that there was very little score in it. I'm totally wrong on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get so distracted, you get so tense, you're just paying attention to the stuff in front of you. You're not thinking about score. So I consciously tried to listen more, and that score is fucking great. Stephen Price did the score, and it's genius.
Yep.
And the way that they build the tension and everything is so subtle. It's so great. It's so
just another statement that Alfonso Cuarón is one of our best directors working today.
It's only an hour and a half, by the way. But it can't be any more than that. Because I would be literally like have a heart attack if
I'm telling you, it's one of the most tense movies ever.
Yeah.
And like, I'm pretty comfortable saying I'll never be in space. I'll never be confronted with this particular horror. Whereas I will go in the ocean where Jaws lives. But this movie scares me way more than Jaws.
It's terrifying because there's so little room for error. Like even all the times that they open up the air latch, what is that? The airlock. Every time that they do that, it flies open and they have to hold on to the thing.
Yeah.
And if they lose, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean everything about this, like she's got 2 seconds in the ISS to do the little fetal position thing and then find the comms to see if Matt is out there, and then all of a sudden fire. And then all of a sudden, like debris storm again, and she's got to jet on over to, and then you got the fucking parachute that gets her, and then she's got to go over and to the Chinese station, but she doesn't have the launching his landing thing. Right?
Yeah,
and by the time you get to her in the water, and then she's starting to drown, you're like, oh my god, she's gonna die right here. And then she crawls up, and she has that triumphant moment and everything,
and she yells, "Akja!"
Yeah, yes,
Akja!
There's
I mean, you can just see just the culmination of all the experience, all the hell that she has gone through by herself almost the entire time.
There's a lot of
amazing
childbirth imagery here, right?
Oh yeah,
that's something that Cuarón's sort of obsessed with, I guess. Like if you go through a lot of his movies and everything, but there's a thing at the end when she's getting out of that ship and everything, and she's by herself. Like there's nothing around. Like there's. You know, you don't know, like there's a lot of people who've discussed whether she's dead there. Right.
Well, there's a split second right before she hits the water where you hear Houston.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like, oh, identify yourself. We can see you on our radar and everything. So I believe that they have to come and investigate.
Yeah.
But it's quick.
One thing that I learned after doing the Sins video for this is that Chinese ship is supposed to land on land, not water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
because we did a sin, like it was, oh, how lucky is it that it'll hit water? And somebody was like, ew, it's supposed to hit land. It's kind of unlucky that it didn't.
That doesn't make sense, though, because she overrides the escape lodge because the Chinese ship is being pulled into the atmosphere, or the space station is being pulled into the atmosphere because of the debris field. So she launches at a completely different angle.
Yeah, I think the sin we wrote was fine.
Yeah,
it's just that the way it's the common thing that we have in Sins videos is where we don't have time to discuss every single aspect of every single thing.
Yeah,
you know. That Chinese thing is supposed to land on land, and so when we said lucky it hit the water, which is lucky, the way
the sin is right,
because if it does hit land, then she's toast.
Not only does it land in the water, but it lands close enough to land to where she can swim out.
Exactly, and that was. If you want to know why we went from 2-minute Amazing Spider-Man video to almost 20, it's because of stuff like that. It's funny. I was watching that Amazing Spider-Man video the other day, and I was like, holy shit, we said so much with so little back then. And I understand why, though, we don't anymore. Yeah. Like, there were sins in there. I was like, I know we'd have lead in for this now.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, but we kept doing stuff like that and people wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't believe the work involved.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, they would be like, oh, I think that, but we didn't do a lead in. So we didn't have any like, you know, but Gravity, I don't know, Gravity's sort of in the middle of all of this. It's a fairly recent video now that we've been doing this for 7 years. But yeah, that was the thing. It was supposed to land on land.
Well, not to mention that throughout the entirety of the space sequence, you see these not even just storms, like massive storms over the water, right? Yeah. And like, there's one shot where I had to pause and I was like, "Holy shit, that's like the storm of the century!" It's like the whole Pacific Ocean is covered in this cloud and like a big funnel in the middle. And she lands when it's perfect weather.
Oh yeah,
it's such a great
Gravity
movie.
is phenomenal. All right, guys, it's time to talk about Mubi again.
Mubi!
And yeah, there are some awesome movies on there right now.
There are.
No surprise.
Yeah.
But Jeremy, you saw one. What is that one?
Well, I have seen it several years ago, and I was really excited to see that it's on Mubi, and it's Death of a Samurai. I think it's actually got a
Harakiri, yeah.
Which I'm going to butcher anyway. Now, this is the guy that directed 13 Assassins. It's the only reason I watched this movie was because 13 Assassins blew my damn mind.
Really?
I loved it. I like samurai movies and weed. So I go to watch. This is almost an opposite kind of samurai movie, where 13 Assassins is kind of batshit action. This is a lot more contemplative. A lot of it's told in flashback. It's at times sentimental. It's about a samurai that comes to his feudal territory owner guy and basically says, "I need you to let me do this suicide ritual in your courtyard." And the guy's like, "Hey, the last guy that did this had selfish reasons and double-crossed us, so I need to hear your story." And then the movie is him telling his story about why he feels it's time to... Samurai, typically, if they failed in their mission, they kill themselves in ritual suicide. And it got some surprises, but it's almost more of a romantic drama than it is any kind of an action thing. And I think it would make an excellent double billing with 13 Assassins.
Oh, okay.
And it's a remake, right? It's a remake of a 1962 movie that came out. Yeah. I will have to give this a look.
Totally.
I have seen it, and I thought about watching it for this one. I watched something else though.
What did you watch?
I watched a movie called 4 Months, 3 Weeks, and 2 Days.
That one intrigued me as well.
And this is oh man, this is really good. I can't help but think that we might be staring into our future with this movie.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want to get political about it, but yeah, there's it starts off with these two women who are roommates at a college. And there are a lot of like long takes and stuff like that in this, but we know that they're preparing for some sort of trip. We don't know why. And her friend is going around trying to get money, and she's like asked her boyfriend for money and all this. And so like we know that they're going on some sort of trip. We don't know what for. But it turns out that this whole time, now they live in Romania, and this is 1987. This is when Nicolae Ceausescu is still the dictator of and everything. And so like they have behind the scenes, they've been trying to get a guy who will perform an abortion for this woman's friend. And the friend seems to be like just like, you know, not very responsible at all. Like supposed to get a certain hotel. She doesn't get the hotel. And meanwhile, the friend is scrambling around getting money, trying to get a new hotel, trying to do all this stuff. Eventually, though, they do get the hotel. They do contact the guy who's supposed to perform this and everything. And the stakes are just unbelievably high because abortion is illegal. And the, you know, there's, they start ramping it up as the months go along. And she's the girl who's pregnant has been telling her friend and this guy, I'm only 2 months along and everything. And then he sort of examines her and he's like, so how long has it been since you've had a period? And she's like, I don't know, like maybe 4 months or something like that. And he's like, this ramps up my danger and and everything. And obviously, I don't want to say too much at this point, but this movie plays like a horror movie at times. Not bloody, not bloody, just scary.
Yeah.
And just imagine being in this situation and needing this, but having all of this all these obstacles that are in front of you, and so there's a whole bunch of stuff. This is the part where I'm going to have to like probably not say anymore, because everything after that you'll kind of know where it goes. But this is really tense and just really, really well made movie. Like I said, a lot of long takes. Performances are fantastic in it. And the situation is heartbreaking.
Wow.
That is something I definitely want to check out. Very timely.
Yes, it is.
And very interesting. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I went slightly different on my selection recently. You love Westerns.
I do.
Jeremy. There's a Western directed by Tommy Lee Jones on the service right now called The Homesman. I had never seen this. So this came out in 2014. And I remember it coming out and everything, and I remember it having a decent cast. And I was like, maybe I'll check that out. Never got a chance to. Luckily, Mubi has it. It was it's part of the Cannes takeover that's still up there. You can still see a lot of those offerings. And this movie, I got to tell you, it starts slow. It starts real slow. It's Hilary Swank is a single spinster, basically, who lives on this sprawling ranch in Nebraska, like a one-horse town. And she is, ingratiated herself into the town. The first person that shows up to her homestead is a guy named Bob, and it's played by the guy who played Cheddar Bob in 8 Mile.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I know that guy. And I looked it up, and I was like, it's fucking Cheddar Bob.
I saw that guy in something recently, and he was playing like a hard-ass street thug. And I was like, man, that guy did not allow himself to be typecast.
But then the story is that 3 women in this town have mental breakdowns for various reasons. Different tragedies befall them, and they react by having a nervous breakdown. And so Hilary Swank is charged by the town reverend, who's played by John Lithgow, to take these women to a town, like a church on the river, which is a long journey, but that'll get them the help that they need. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden I look over, and William Fichtner is in this.
Oh, wow.
Playing like a real asshole of like a husband to one of the women. And then Jesse Plemons is in this. He's playing a slightly less assholey husband to one of the women. Mm-hmm. And then to help her on her journey, she unearths a Tommy Lee Jones. And Tommy Lee Jones, I know he's usually got like a couple of modes, right? He's got No Country for Old Men, or he's got Fugitive. Mm-hmm. And this is a very different Tommy Lee Jones. He's funny in this movie. He's deranged in this movie. He's occasionally serious and menacing in this movie. And this is my favorite Tommy Lee Jones performance outside of The Fugitive.
Wow.
Interesting.
It is really, really good. This is so up your alley. By the way, as soon as they get on this journey, one of the women, by the way, is Miranda Otto from Lord of the Rings.
I am no woman.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Man.
Yes. Indeed.
Once the journey starts, this movie takes off. It is it's a road trip movie, basically. Very Buster Scruggsy. Not as overt. By the way, Tim Blake Nelson is in this.
Of course he is.
Of course.
James Spader is in this. Meryl Streep is in this.
Ooh.
At the end, Haley Steinfeld is in this.
How old is she? Like 7?
She's 16. So it was 2014.
I thought
her character is 16. I don't know exactly how old she is.
Why did I think you said the movie came out I thought you said 94 for some reason.
It seems like something that would have come out a long time ago, but it is a delight, especially as soon as they take off. Hilary Swank is magnificent in this.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever see, and I'll mess up the name, but The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada?
No.
That's another Tommy Lee Jones
Yeah,
joint.
he directed that, and that was really good, but it's also got that slow sort of, he is definitely playing his usual sort of Sam Gerard, but like, maybe more No Country for Old Men, I guess. Not Sam Gerard, but
but there's not that difference.
They're both people who are probing and investigating. One's a little more shouty than the other. But yeah, he directed that and starred in that, and that's a really good movie that he did too back in the day, probably like 2005, somewhere around there.
Well, the cinematography in this movie is absolutely fantastic. The shots, the slow shots at the beginning are, I think they're obviously intentional. I mean, he's trying to set a mood and he's trying to set the setting, basically. And it's the really cool part of this movie is where you see like miles and miles and miles of desert and flatland and all that stuff, and then you see a single tree, or you see a single hotel, or you see like a town with 7 buildings in it. By comparison, it seems like, you know, a thriving metropolis. Mentioned Meryl Streep is in this, but yeah, so it's a really, really, really good movie.
So both Meryl Streep and her daughter Grace Gummer are in this?
I believe so. Grace Gummer plays one of the women. Yes.
Okay, so both of them are in the movie.
Yeah, she plays the reverend's wife of the church that they are taking the women to.
It's funny. Grace Gummer is in a lot of movies and TV shows and stuff like that. But like the one that I always thought looked the most like Meryl Streep was her name's Jennifer L, I think, but she's Rosemary Harris's daughter.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. I always think that's Meryl Streep's daughter at first, but you know, it's not.
So you guys both just sold me on your movies. If anybody listening wants to take a peek, where do they go?
They go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins, MUBI.com/Cinemasins. Gotten some social media responses recently of people signing up and using that promo code, because if you use that URL, Mubi.com/Cinemasins, you get 30 days free. What do you have to lose? We're already like, we want you to get this service no matter what. But if we're also Mubi is giving you 30 days free.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Do it today.
You can enjoy the 3 movies we just talked about.
Yes, as soon as you sign up. It's just
right now.
Get in there and watch them and tell us what you think.
Yeah,
do it.
Then we've talked about these a lot. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. You know, here's another thing, right? This is going back to Avatar with the worlds and everything that are created in these things. There's something a bit. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't get me wrong.
The first one.
The second one I don't like at all. But there's something fakey about these worlds too, right? Guardians of the Galaxy is space as fuck.
Yes, it is.
And there's a lot of cool things in there that I wish that they could explore a little bit more. But it is a Marvel thing, and they're servicing the overall Marvel story in these things. But like, you know, that them slingshotting through those little warps and everything. I'd like to know more about that shit.
Yeah, I think they went. In my mind, I think they just went in a weird way in the second one, involving more of like the family dynamic and like the dynamic between them, like themselves and all that, when you could get more into the adventure part of it and it would be a lot more fun, you know? Show me more of Rocket playing with like the little explosives where the guys are blowing up, and
they really wrote themselves in a corner in that second one.
Yeah.
Because it's a point where they make characters useless for a long time, and then finally it's like, ego's bad, let's get this story on the road. But you only have like, of course you have like 40 minutes left of at that point. God, that movie. Then we have Hardware Wars, Star Wars parody.
Did you ever see this?
Watch? No.
Oh my God, this was I haven't seen it since I was, probably like 1988, 89 or something like that. But it's a 13-minute mini movie that we had on VHS. I don't know. It wasn't like on TV or anything like that. It was just one of those viral pass it around Blair Witch Project type of things. And my family had it. The side of my family that's very religious had it. So every time we would go over there for like Sunday dinner or something like that, we would all the kids would watch this because it was parent approved. It's Star Wars with toaster ovens and drills and hammers and stuff like that, called Hardware Wars.
In space?
In space, yes. And it's like A New Hope, basically. It's them like recreating like the trash compactor scene and like the running away with Leia and all that stuff. And it was fun. We always laughed at it. We watched it a million times, and I haven't seen it since then.
Can I tell you, it sounds stupid as hell?
Sure, but 8-year-old me was enjoying it.
Well,
there was a very limited amount of things that we could do at this branch of our family.
I'm with you. I don't. If you make them hardware things like drills, and then the scene in the trash compactor. It's hardware versus hardware.
Well, that's not really hardware, is it?
A compactor? It's just a bigger.
It's a machine.
So is a toaster.
Don't shit on my childhood, man.
What kind of hardware was Luke Skywalker?
I think, God, I need to remember this.
Was Darth Vader at the toaster? Was he Darth Toaster, and he always overcooks the toast?
I think the toaster was like Han or Chewie. I just Googled hardware. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, you can watch it on YouTube, actually. That's
excellent.
interesting. Yeah.
I think I will.
Yeah. No, there were actual people in there, too, but like there was a lot of hardware.
Okay.
It was fun.
All right.
And we enjoyed it.
All right. I'm sorry I made fun.
That's all right. Look it up on YouTube and enjoy.
Then we have Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2000.
I saw both of them.
Oh, really? I never saw the second one. The first one, get your one-way ticket to midnight. So here's an excuse for animators to draw a bunch of boobies on cartoons.
Yep.
It's our turn to fuck.
Yeah, that's right. This is a sort of a. Would you say Heavy Metal is an anthology movie? It's not really one straight story.
No,
definitely not.
You have one where John Candy voices this kid who stumbles on the Lochnar or whatever, and then becomes this like muscular like whatever being, and he's like strong or whatever, and he looks down at his penis and he's like big.
You remember this way better than I do.
I've seen it a bunch.
I've only seen it once, man, but I felt dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it's also like interesting animation. You know, they actually reference, like, isn't there a part in Beavis and Butthead Do America that kind of veers into
South Park?
South Park, that's right. Yeah. You know, it's enjoyable for what it is, especially if you do drugs and shit.
The South Park episode is called Awesome Boobage.
That's about right.
And Kenny keeps on finding himself in these heavy metal animated things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have the kid who turns into I think his name's Den. John Candy's playing a character named Den. And then there's the one about the space captain guy who's on trial for all these horrific things. And the Lochnar makes he keeps telling his lawyer, he's like, I've got an angle, Charlie, an angle and everything. And like there's everything, there's nothing that this captain guy can say. He's guilty as fuck. and he's got this one guy that he's got on the witness stand who's gonna vouch for him and everything. But like the lawyer's like, he's like, what are you kidding, man? You can't say not guilty in this thing. Like I was barely able to get it so that people wouldn't burn your ashes and piss on your grave or something like that. Like that's as good as I could get as your lawyer. But then you see the guy in the witness stand. He's like, I've never known him to do anything immoral. And then the Lochnar makes him tell the truth. He's like, unless you're talking about the kiddie porn ring.
Wow.
And so there's that story, and then there's the random, the naked chick goes to the pool and like becomes this big like Valkyrie or something like that. I don't know the but you saw Heavy Metal 2000?
One time.
Do you remember anything about it?
I remember we rented Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2000, and we watched them both back to back.
I imagine they're kind of like blend together, right?
Yeah, and I just remember cartoon boobage, awesome boobage,
awesome boobage.
That was it. It's still I was probably only like 23, 24. So I was still like, cartoons shouldn't be doing that.
You weren't even drinking at that point, right?
No, I was definitely drinking at that point.
Okay, good.
A couple years prior.
You don't want to watch it. I mean, Chris obviously did, but I don't want to watch these movies sober.
Oh no, no, that was definitely a drink and watch.
Yeah, I mean, as a teenager, it's like, hell yeah, man, this is awesome. Then there is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books of all time, and then turned into this 2005 movie that is very hit or miss.
Yeah, it is.
Have you seen it? You've seen it multiple times, right?
No.
You just saw it the once?
Saw it the once, and I've seen parts of it since.
I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I mean, Alan Rickman is the best part of the movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Mos Def.
Yeah, Mos Def is good.
You know, I'm not even really into what Sam Rockwell's doing, or Deschanel, or even the main characters.
Martin Freeman.
He's okay. He's not the problem. I do like. Well, you're right when you say hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
The visualizations and the narrations they do with the actual guide are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They're humorous. They're crisp looking animations. The narrator is droll. And I fucking love that song they wrote for the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah,
when they leave.
Oh, yeah.
Because they wrote it, and a book doesn't have a melody, obviously, but they had to write a song for this, and I find myself singing that shit all the time.
Jay Roach, I believe, directed this. The guy who did Austin Powers.
It's Garth Jennings.
Oh, Garth Jennings.
But Jay Roach is a producer.
He's a producer on this.
This reminded me of the Barry episode where he's like, it's by this director, Jay Roach.
Yeah. He has a great line in there, too. Like, wow, that guy did not give a fuck.
I can't wait to revisit that. I think it's going to come up again.
Garth Jennings, what did he do before this? Did he do it? Because I know he's a British director, right?
He did. He was an actor in Shaun of the Dead. He really didn't do anything else before then.
Really?
Yeah, unless it was TV.
I'll tell you what else hurt this movie, and this is not the movie's fault. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy had recordings before this. They were radio broadcasts of this book. I'm trying to remember if Douglas Adams wrote it as a radio thing first and then the book came out. I can't remember if that was, there's an order that I might be flip-flopping here, but I listened to those radio broadcasts a bunch, like a ton. And the narrator guy who they get back for this movie is doing some of the same narrating things, only at a faster pace and without the same timing.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So I hated it. And yes, that's not the movie's fault, but I feel like the way the radio version does it, it's so well realized and timed and everything, whereas this one is like let's get it going. Let's get it going. And so when you're comparing the two, and I could not, because it's the same voice.
Sure.
I couldn't get it beyond that. I was like, oh my God, this is a funny moment, but you're just kind of walking right over it.
Oh, that's interesting. That makes sense.
But yeah, they changed a whole bunch of stuff from the book. Well, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it's the same story, but they changed a lot of characterizations and it's another one of those unfilmable books because it's mostly the funny things come from the narration. It comes from the actual Hitchhiker's Guide that they read in there. And there's some jokes in there that they can't really do. Even when they do the whale that gets born out of nothing from the improbability drive and everything, his thoughts as he's going through that whole thing just isn't, it's the same, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's also super short. Like,
is it?
Well, I mean, it's what, 109 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels rushed, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Because
like I
said, the narration stuff in there is super fast. But you're right, Alan Rickman in this is probably the best part. I mean, that robot is just in general the best.
But he has the best, kind of narration of everything. He's just put out about everything.
Oh yeah,
so funny.
It's not the best, but it's not the worst either. Then we have a movie I've never seen, Invaders from Mars, 1986 from Tobe Hooper.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks. It's another one of those kid sees Martians coming down and they invade, and I think they take him back up to Mars, and then no, they don't take him because he tells his parents and they don't believe him, and he's questioning himself and all that stuff. And then eventually Martians come back down to Earth and kill everybody.
All right.
Okay, we'll do one more. We'll finish up The Eyes, and it's a good one. Interstellar. Christopher Nolan. And this movie, I feel like, gets better every time I watch it.
No, I agree. Absolutely. I agree. I even make fun of the love mumbo jumbo stuff at the end less every time I watch it. Too, even though it's an easy joke to make in a recent Sins video.
Yeah.
So we did. I'm telling you, this movie's long spaceship porn is as good as any.
Yes.
As good as any. Long tracking shots of a tiny, tiny ship traversing a big-ass planet. Fucking makes you feel like you're there. The scale of space, this movie does really, really well.
Yeah.
I love it.
And Nolan does this stuff that he does in a lot of his movies that I've grown. I don't know where he developed this technique. I mean, I don't know if it's something that he came up with or if it's just something that he does better than everybody else, but parallel actions. He keeps doing this thing where it's like something's happening here. Like there's that big, I don't know how long it is. It feels like forever, not because it's bad, but because it's so great and so much happens in it. But you have Damon McConaughey fighting on the planet. Yeah. You have the burning going down on the farm. Yeah. Jessica Chastain trying to get back in the house. You have all these things going on at once, and there's that constant music that's playing all the way throughout it that just keeps driving it and you're like, Jesus Christ, man, you're exhausted by the time it gets to the like the end of all of that. I mean, yes, one thing about it is like, why don't they fix Earth? If they can do all these different things, why not try to fix Earth first? But I think these scenarios are always, well, we tried to fix Earth. They don't say that explicitly, but they tried and they failed, and now this is the last resort. Right. Just like in Crimson Tide, there's two things that they try to get the message for, and there's so many people who came out and were like, there would be more communications than that they would get well, it's not really about how many they have, it's about what would have happened if you didn't have anything. But Interstellar is just one of those movies. Yeah, every time it's on, I have to watch it, just like The Prestige. Yep, same deal. Nolan is fucking fabulous.
Yeah, man, he's on another level. Fun fact, just read this week, he actually planted thousands of acres of corn and grew that corn for Interstellar.
Really?
Because he didn't want, he's big on practical. He didn't want CG corn. Man of Steel. And then he turned around when they were done with production and sold it for a profit.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Great. That speaks to not only kind of a clever guy, but the sheer volume of corn he grew for that movie.
That's insane.
I want to know, and maybe you guys know this, how he created the tsunami. Like how that's
he
done
shot
practically.
That in a bathtub. No,
that explains everything. By the way, I've had a recurring nightmare. Never have recurring dreams.
Uh-oh.
I had a recurring nightmare about that wave.
Interesting.
Because it's terrifying to me. Because it's so far off. It looks like, a mountain or something like that? And you're like, oh, no problem. They go about their business and everything. And then when they start to realize what it is, it's absolutely terrifying to me.
Yeah, no,
even more so than the Tesseract and the black hole and all that shit.
I'm still more frightened by sinkholes.
Yeah, okay, all right. You all got a thing.
I've discussed this before, but that scene where they leave dude up in that's the same scene, but they leave dude up in that ship, and he's what? How many years is it?
23 years.
It's 23 years or something like that. I every time I watch this movie, I think about that dude being up there for 23 years and knowing what he knows, that to them that it's only 7 or 8 minutes. He has to stay there. Yeah. He has to make sure that he's there when they get back. And just got, you could make a whole fucking movie out of that dude.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Pratt didn't even last a year
before he was growing out his beard, thinking about suicide. And this guy lasted. Well, he does say he went into the cryo chamber for a little bit. But ultimately realized he'd just rather live his life. God, yeah. When next time we do that poor bastard episode, we got to remember to talk about that poor bastard.
That guy, I don't know. I may have brought him up in the last time we did that, because Every time I watch this movie, and he's like, he's got a little gray in his beard now and everything, and he's just like, this is what I signed up for, essentially. Even if it's 1 year, even if it's 5 months, think about how long this shit is.
Yeah.
Where like he's been just on the ship and he has to keep everything status quo. God damn, man, this movie's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. And like I said, just keeps getting better and better. And I think every time I go to the IMDb, the score is higher on this thing.
Yeah.
It's at 8.6 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if it got up to 9.0 like in the next few years, because it's that good. Okay, so we're going to stop there at the I's, and we'll go into the J's the next time. We continue our road trip through space.
Space.
But we're going to do some recommends and warns now.
Totes amazeballs.
It won the Academy Award
Oh, for what?
for Best Movie Ever Made.
Yeah, baby. I've got a fun rec-a-warn.
Yeah?
Have you seen The Perfection?
No, but we mentioned this recently, didn't we?
Is this the Netflix one?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay.
Oh, no, we haven't, but I've seen things about it. It's got
Allison Williams.
Allison Williams in it.
Yes. This movie is much more Recca than Warren, I think, because it starts off beautifully. Allison Williams is a cellist whose mother, she was in this prestigious music school, but her mom got real sick. So for 10 years, she quit the music school and took care of her mom, right? And it opens up on her mom being dead. So she's 10 years older. She hasn't played hardly at all, and she's released essentially from this burden. And so the first thing she does is she calls up her old music teachers, Steven Weber from Wings, and the other girl, Elena Huffman, and she travels out to China to reconnect with them because he's scouting out other young cellists. That's what they do.
Okay.
Very small school. And he has chosen this one girl who's played by Logan Browning, who's like a phenom, who's like a virtuoso cellist, and she's putting on this big thing in Shanghai. So it starts off with this, like, you don't know if they're going to be rivals, you don't know if they're going to sabotage each other, and then they end up fucking each other.
Nice.
Because the one girl has always looked up to Allison Williams, and Allison Williams is jealous of the but
jealous of the cellist.
Jealous of the cellist is happy though for her, and so at that point, you're like, this movie could take any permutation of roads. It takes the weirdest road possible. It gets into okay. I don't want to say too much. It gets into
Single white female.
Gross. It doesn't go anywhere near that.
Okay.
It gets into gross stuff that's gross superficially. It's so hard to describe it. There's a thing that happens to Logan Browning's character. And Allison Williams is blamed for it. And then the movie takes all kinds of turns, some of which are disturbing, some of which are triumphant, some of which are completely out of nowhere, but it all makes sense within the movie. And I think I'm talking myself into recommending this instead of Recca warning.
Well, I was about to say, how much once the turn happens is Recca and how much is Warren?
That's the warniest part is because A, there's some disturbing content in there. B, there's some characters that turn on a dime. So it's not perfect. Even some of exactly. Even some of the gross out stuff is a little gross. I can't describe it without spoiling it, but
I don't want you to spoil it.
But it seems like there's a bit of a buffer. Like, I don't like gross out stuff, but for whatever reason, it's shot in a way that it worked for me.
Okay.
It is definitely worth a look. I think even you, Jeremy, would enjoy this. I am very interested to see what you think.
Well, I'll probably watch it today.
Yeah. It's interesting to see Allison Williams' career post-Girls because Get Out, she was so great in Get Out, even though she's an ultimately despicable character. And in this one, she there's several manifestations of her character, and she's really, really good in this. Steven Weber is great in
You know
this.
what? Steven Weber, that's probably a good study on a lot of these actors that we've seen before who had big careers back in the day, and then you see them so many years later. Like, I feel like they've probably, at the point that, Steven Weber's height was maybe what, Wings?
Yeah, probably.
He was in that Stephen King's
Yeah,
The Shining.
he was in that Shining movie that, yeah.
But that, I think, was still on its way down.
Like, some of these actors, I feel like they've been in so many things that we haven't seen since that time that they've developed their craft.
Yeah.
And like even something stupid like Judd Nelson in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah.
Like his character in there, like it feels like he's having the most fun in the world doing that. And it's like, it's been years since he's been in anything that you've seen, Judd Nelson. And he's so good in that part and everything. But you see so many of this, it happens a lot where people are like, oh, I didn't even know they were still acting.
Yeah.
And then it turns out they're awesome now. There was what was it? Was it the Sex Pistols that broke up and then they tried to come back like many years later? Is that Johnny Rotten and all them?
Yeah, Johnny Rotten formed Public Image Ltd. I don't know if there's anybody else from the Sex Pistols in there, but he came back.
I think it was the Sex Pistols. When they came back and they started rehearsing together, he said, oh, we're gonna have to go back and learn how we played it back then because we're too good now.
Yeah.
we need to be shitty for this to work. And it's it's just the way I feel about it. Like, you have so many years of just doing plays and movie after movie that's never watched, but you get a chance to kind of experiment and work and everything, and you become amazing out of that.
Yeah, he is he's recognizable to where I was like, I think that's Steven Weber, but he's also unrecognizable enough to where I had to Google it. So I was like, there's no way. Oh, yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
If you were flipping channels and you saw a 2008 movie with Kenan Thompson and Zachary Levi and the travel coffee mug bong guy from
Cabin in the Woods,
as the three leads on a road trip R-rated comedy, you check it out, right?
I would definitely watch that.
You would regret it. You would regret it hard.
Really?
It's got like a 22 on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie is called Wieners.
Yeah?
Wieners?
First of all, let me tell you who's in this.
Is this worse than Without a Paddle?
Yes. Because for this movie, they have a rival group on another road trip that they keep running into, and at one point, one of that group spits on their windshield, and all three of them get out and look at it and go, oh, and that's a big laugh in the movie.
Holy fuck!
Ooh.
Like, this is almost like maybe they didn't have a script. So Jenny McCarthy's in here, Daryl Hammond's in here, Andy Milonakis, Kyle Gass, Chris Pratt. Again, 2008, so it's before any of these people are very famous. But the premise is this: the Bong Kid, we'll just call him Bong Kid. His girlfriend dumped him because she saw a Dr. Phil-like show, or she went on it, and he encouraged her to dump her boyfriend. Dr. Phil-like guy is Daryl Hammond. He's a TV advice guy. So they decide, him and his two best friends, Zachary Levi and Kenan Thompson, decide to go on a road trip all the way out to L.A. to get revenge on this TV doctor who lost him his girlfriend. But they have to drive a makeshift discount Oscar Mayer Wiener vehicle because Kenan Thompson has converted his van into a food truck that has a big giant wiener on it. And they keep running out of money, and they have to do stupid shit for money. And at one point, they sell hot dogs for money. Like, what this movie thinks is funny is random homeless guy on a street sleeping with his mouth open, and somebody sneaks up tiptoeing and sticks a hot dog in his mouth.
Oh, my God.
And the homeless guy wakes up and he's all happy now because
how does that even get 22%? I don't even say how that...
It is one of the least funny things I've ever seen. They get all the way fucking there. They get all the way there. They crash a taping of the show only for the doctor guy, Daryl Hammond, to convince this kid, no, this was the best thing for you. You needed to break up. And the kid's like, you're right. And that's basically the end of the fucking movie.
You watched this entire thing?
I did. I didn't have a lot going on yesterday because I also watched another one-word title movie called Bigger. This one definitely had a theatrical release. Came out in 2018. and it stars Tyler Hoechner, the kid from Road to Perdition, who goes on the run with Tom Hanks. And then this kid was also in the Teen Wolf show on USA Networks.
On MTV.
So, this is basically a biopic about the two Jewish brothers that essentially are credited with inventing bodybuilding. So it's a period piece.
Had you heard of this before?
No. But it says in the description on the TV guide that they eventually meet Arnold Schwarzenegger and kick off his Mr. Olympia career, which kicks off his film career. And I'm like, I have got to see who they cast as Arnold Schwarzenegger and how good his impression's going to be. So I'm watching the whole fucking movie, and it's bad. It's like a TV movie, acting and writing wise. Julianne Hough is in it. Victoria Justice is in it. Both as different girls that he ends up dating. He's just very insistent that healthy, strong, muscular bodies are the future. And so, like, he sees somebody smoking. He says, that's bad for you. That's this movie's idea of a joke. Anyway, I hang on. He's got this rival publication guy who's the only exercise magazine out there, this guy. But he doesn't want these Jewish kids, he's really racist, infringing on his business. And so they have competing muscle guys they send to the Mr. Universe pageant. And then they threaten to pull out and start their own pageant because there's some shady dealings. And then they create the Mr. Olympia. And that's when Schwarzenegger shows up. He's okay.
And was it anybody that we know?
Oh, no. I'd never seen this guy before. And the voice was okay. Body was okay. Movie ends quite abruptly after that. There's a scene where Schwarzenegger's trying on a coat and is gesturing angrily, and the coat rips. And he turns and he goes, I ripped the coat. I ripped the jacket. I cannot recommend you watch either of these movies. I did, so you don't have to.
Wow.
Did you ever see Pumping Iron?
No.
Yeah, that's the documentary with Schwarzenegger and Ferrigno and them at a Mr. Was it All World, Mr. World, whatever?
Yeah, something like that.
Bodybuilding competition, and it's an actual documentary. So there's like footage of Schwarzenegger, discussing his process and all this, but a lot of it is about him getting inside Lou Ferrigno's head and making him fuck up during the competition and stuff. Like you see him, he's like relishing like this. He's coming to me for advice, but I'm going to tell him, oh, this is and he's and there's a point too. This is a PG rated movie too, and he's like, I think bodybuilding is a lot like coming. He's like, when you go out and you lift weights, it's like coming, and all that. And it's like, Jesus. But that movie's not great, but it's kind of fun as a relic to watch.
I would get I guess the main character from Bigger is somewhere in that documentary then, because he was basically Schwarzenegger's trainer for a couple of years for these muscle. And it's funny that you say that, because this movie does hint that Schwarzenegger was really playful. In his very first competition in this movie, the rival publication has his own, I don't know, Italian strongman or whatever, and they're both out there flexing side by side, and Schwarzenegger keeps stepping in front of him and grinning at him. And then they leave the stage, and Schwarzenegger waits until the other guy's off stage, and he walks right back on stage and starts flexing some more, and the other guy shuffles back out.
It's a thing, like when you watch it, you realize Schwarzenegger realizes there's no one there that's going to beat him. He's already won it, I think, twice or something by this point. And it's kind of like, the Great White Hype, where they Damon Wayans is just kind of like just eating a bunch of junk food and not even training, because Peter and they've been hyping this Peter Berg guy up like super, super high, and like, oh my God, he's going to destroy him. And then of course, when they go out in the ring, it's like, you trying to embarrass me on national TV? And he just knocks him out in like one punch or something. But it might be a fun movie for me to watch. It's that Bigger, even though it's not supposed to be good.
It's not very good.
I haven't. I've seen a couple of movies since last week when we recorded last week.
Yes, definitely last week. Yes.
But I saw 2010.
What'd you think?
Which I had not seen since I saw in the theaters and everything. That movie's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's for people who don't really enjoy 2001.
I agree. It's definitely more tangible and action-y, right?
Yeah, and it's got people that you've seen before, John Lithgow and Bob Balaban,
They
and
don't all look
Roy
the same.
Scheider. Yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised how much I enjoyed it, though, because there's something about it, the way they set everything up. It's 1984, so it's very, very 1984 in a lot of things, especially with the Russia versus USA dynamic that's going on in this. And they set up the political thing before they even go into space, that there's maybe some Bay of Pigs type stuff about to happen. But the problem is that so the very beginning of this is like a Russian ambassador guy comes to talk to Roy Scheider, who's on one of these big contact satellite things, and he's saying like, well, we've got a ship that's going out towards where Discovery last was. We're going to beat you guys there. Why don't you just get on the ship and we can trade information and everything, and it benefits everybody to trade information here. And of course, there's the tensions are such between the Russians and the U.S. that it's kind of an out there radical idea. But eventually, it is Roy Scheider is sent along with Bob Balaban and John Lithgow to on this Russian ship that's going out there. Helen Mirren plays one of the Russian.
Yeah.
She's 39 in this movie.
Wow.
But you sort of, the movie, I don't think it has an outright statement of this, but it just kind of goes to show like when people are hanging out and they all have a similar goal and everything, that political boundaries don't matter anymore.
Yeah, they get along, right?
They get along, but there is the stuff that's happening on the ground tries to form a wedge.
Don't they have to separate?
They do. There's a point where they get the Americans. So the Discovery is American property.
Yeah.
There's a point where something happens down on Earth where Soviets shot a ship in the water, and 800 people died, and like everybody's withdrawing, and all this, they're preparing for war essentially. And this news gets up to them in the station, and it's fun. Like the Russians are sitting on one side, the Americans are on the other, and the Russians are getting their information from the guy we see at the very beginning of the movie, and the Americans are getting their information from one of the guys we see at the beginning of the movie. And they say, yes, you're going to have to get on Discovery. And Discovery just happens to have just enough fuel to get back on a low power 28-day something. And it's interesting. They do go full on explanation as to what happened to Hal in 2010. I always, and I think I can still have this interpretation, but I always thought that in 2001, as they got closer to the monolith, something was changing inside of Hal because of that. And I think it still stands. But in 2010, they're very explicit about Hal was given instructions not to tell Bowman and the other guy about the mission. They didn't know anything about a monolith, and Hal, in the efforts to keep that secret, would do anything, and he became paranoid essentially. So all the things that we saw in 2001 is due to the fact that he couldn't tell them about what the mission was. And so that's why the murders happen in 2001, is because to him it makes total sense.
Yep.
And so that's an interesting thing. Balaban plays a guy who knows Hal completely and is able to reprogram him not to remember any of the stuff that happened in the first movie. Hal becomes a very tragic character in this movie, and he is in the first one, but I think even more so in this one. And then yes, Bowman shows up as a incorporeal figure who like while he's in the middle of talking to Roy Scheider at one point goes from young to middle aged to old all in the same scene. And I remember this from the trailer. I think it's in the trailer where Scheider's like, what's going to happen? And Bowman's like, something wonderful.
Yeah,
and, and that something wonderful is an interesting, very sci-fi, awesome sci-fi thing that happens at the end that I really loved how this movie ended.
Yeah.
And he's right. He is right about it being something wonderful, even though it sounds almost sinister the way he says it. So yeah, 2010 probably got short shrift when it came out. It's not 2001. It's hard to compare these two movies, and not think that it's like, a horrible like mismatch as far as quality, but watch 2010 sort of on its own. It's a much better movie. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to go one more round?
Sure.
I don't have anything else.
You did 2 of yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do one more.
I didn't. I would have saved one. I didn't realize we were doing.
I've got one more too. It's a fairly quick one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so remember when we did the road trip through Mississippi, and there was a bunch of racially tinged movies, right? One of them was Mississippi Burning.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mississippi Burning came on as I was in the other room doing work and all that stuff. And I heard it, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I heard Gene Hackman's voice.
Yeah.
And so I went out, and I was like, oh, well, I'll watch a few minutes of this while I eat lunch and all that. And got extremely absorbed because it was right at the beginning of the movie. Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe are 2 FBI agents that are investigating the disappearance of some college protesters, basically, who are protesting the Klan and stuff like that, demonstrators, basically. And Gene Hackman is from Mississippi. He kind of is the affable Gene Hackman type of character, right? And Willem Dafoe is the more by-the-book guy. This is an early role for Willem Dafoe, I think. And the dynamic is pretty good in the first place and all that stuff. Gene Hackman's able to talk to these guys because he's from the same neck of the woods. But as they get well, actually, it's not even. It's the first thing that the sheriff said. They come in, they're like, hey, we're from the FBI. And the sheriff says, are you here to help us with our N-word problem? And like from that point on, it goes off the deep end. Now, this is set in the 60s. This is... it shows footage from, movie footage from Klan rallies. They are out and proud. They are the master race, and they're going to let the black people know about it every day of their lives. They want to erase them from existence, and it's not even secret. R. Lee Ermey is the mayor, and he's saying it. National news broadcasts are coming down to cover this whole thing, and they're saying this in front of the national news. And it is absolutely an amazing movie. The way that they end up breaking the stronghold of the Klan in that community eventually, and getting people to justice and things like that is incredible. It is way too timely to watch in this day and age. And
I just watched this 3 days ago, probably the same time you were watching it.
Really?
Frances McDormand is in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Young,
super
Frances
young.
McDormand.
And she's the wife of the sheriff, or the
deputy.
The deputy.
Who's Brad Dourif.
Who's Brad Dourif. And Gene Hackman is kind of creeping on her. Like,
oh, he's way creeping on her.
And there are times where I'm like, he's doing this to get detective information. And then there's times where I'm like, he doesn't care about the case. He's just horny right now. Yep. And it kind of goes back and forth.
It does.
I had never seen this. I'm floored that this is what you brought. I also endorsed this. I'd give it a strong recommend. I watched it the same time you did and loved it.
Were you surprised, like how much like it obviously hit emotionally at home?
Yes, yes, it's very timely. What stuck out to me the most is that if you were making this movie today, or if you were casting this movie with the rest of these two men's careers in your mind, Willem Dafoe would play the loose cannon, and Gene Hackman would play the straight arrow.
And
they're cast opposite in this movie, and it was fascinating for me to watch, just because I'm not used to subdued Willem Dafoe, except for Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah, Gene Hackman is affable as hell in this movie. Like he's charming. It's amazing that like he thinks because he's so able to talk to people on their level and everything that he could go into the African American community and do the same thing, and sometimes he can. But the more righteously paranoid that they get of any white person approaching them, the less he's able to connect with them.
Well, and it's also a dry county.
Yeah.
So there's that one scene where he goes into the quote-unquote bar that is for the cops of that town, the white cops of that town, but they're trying to pretend it's not a bar. That scene's almost... I thought he was going to get wrecked in that scene.
Well, Michael Rooker is about to fuck him up.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in this movie.
It is a great movie.
I saw it a long time ago. It's been over 25 years probably since I've seen it. I know it was a Best Picture nominee, I believe, in 1988. Alan Parker, who's another guy that we could run down a list because he's got that weird kind of filmography. You're like, really? He did that and that and that? Doesn't make any sense. But I remember he did it. But was anybody? Did Hackman get a nomination for this? Did any actors?
I think so. I think he did.
I remember that being a big movie in '88, but Rain Man was essentially going to take everything anyway. So.
7 Academy Awards nominations, Best Picture, and 1 for Best Cinematography. 1989, he was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role.
Yep, and that is, of course, the IMDb bullshit. 1989. Yeah,
oh, yeah
sure. Yeah. The ceremony was in 1989. Mine also has the word Mississippi, the state Mississippi, and I thought for sure you were because you went on that whole thing where there's all this racism and stuff, but I saw one that's exactly what Chris was going to bring up here in 5 minutes. Mississippi Grind is what it's called.
Oh, how'd you like this?
I liked it okay.
Yeah.
I would recommend it, mainly just based on performances more than anything.
And this is up your
You've seen
alley.
this?
Yeah. I saw it back around when it came out.
Oh yeah. Ryan Reynolds is not like doing that wacky Ryan Reynolds Van Wilder thing that he's really known for. He's really, doing a performance in this. And Ben Mendelsohn, who before we knew him as the bad guy in everything,
yeah, he's actually playing like just a regular guy.
Well, he would play these roles a lot too. He was like this in Bloodline. If you ever saw that on Netflix. He was like that, and what was the other one that I believe it's Animal Kingdom, where he
in the movie?
The movie Animal Kingdom.
Oh, really? I never saw him.
Where he plays more of a fuck up, more of, that type of thing. But, Mississippi Grind, it's not like a poker movie. It's a gambling movie. It's a road trip gambling movie. So it's these, Ben Mendelsohn meets Ryan Reynolds at a poker game in Iowa. And Mendelsohn decides that he needs to have Ryan Reynolds next to him as he goes down the Mississippi River to go to certain gambling establishments because he thinks he's good luck. And Mendelsohn he's a loser. He just can't win anything. Like everything that he touches, like it's like even when it looks like he's got it in the bag. He finds a way to lose. And
he's doing everything, right? Like craps and blackjack and all that stuff too.
Yeah, he's doing all sorts of stuff. But one of the big turning points is he's playing a poker game in Memphis, and he's got the best hand, and all the money gets in, and then the player he's playing up against gets the one card they need to take all of his money, and it's not a great movie by any means. It's just interesting to watch. I like these actors. And Sienna Miller's in it.
Who's the other girl? Isn't there one?
The other girl is Annalee Tipton.
Oh, okay.
But Sienna Miller is Ryan Reynolds' love interest in it, and Annalee Tipton is a kind of sort of Ben Mendelsohn love interest, even though there's nothing that really happens out of that. But there's a point in this. There's a turning point in this movie and then what happens after that, which I really, really got into. The turning point of this is Mendelsohn wants to bet on this one horse because they've been doing this like rainbow theme, and so they're looking for horses that have anything related to rainbows. and Mendelsohn really wants to bet on this one horse in this one point, and Reynolds is like, no, we need to do the one called Mississippi Grind. And he's like, no, man, it's this one. It's the whatever Thunderclap, whatever the fuck the horse is called. And so Reynolds, he tells Reynolds, bet it all on this horse or whatever. He's like, hey, all right. So they watch this race, and this horse that he's picked is first all the way until like the last 10 lengths. Mississippi Grind comes up and wins it easily. And Reynolds is like, all right, man, you know, I tried to get you to bet on the right horse here. You're just a lost cause, man. Just a lost cause. And he leaves Mendelsohn there. And he's like, I made sure I didn't bet everything. So he gives him 100 and he keeps 100 for himself. And Mendelssohn's like, oh man, $100. We could bet it on this horse and like win all this. And he's like, nah, man, I'm done. I'm just done. And then you find out Reynolds did bet on Mississippi Grind.
I remember because I didn't remember that part of it, but I remember they won.
Yeah,
or he won.
Yeah, and but from that point forward, it goes through this whole like. There's a lot of things where you're like, you're sure you know where this movie's gonna go, and it keeps giving you pleasant surprises afterwards, and it sort of rewards your watching it, as you and everything. So I recommended it. Like I said, it's not a great movie. I can't call it a wreck-a-warren. It doesn't fit into that, and it's not a straight warren either. So it could be one of those ambivalent type movies. But I wouldn't want to put a warren in there. Maybe an ambivalent.
No, it's a nice. Like you said, the performances are really, really good.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is stretching a little bit inside of his like Deadpool, Van Wilder stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that's going to do it for this week. Keep going to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins on Facebook, Cinemasins Twitter, SoundCloud. We have a Discord. May have to invite you on Discord through our Facebook. But we got a lot of ways to talk about this very episode.
Okay, so this week of this podcast, you can get the Ables.
Hey, that
Go
means
up
it's
and
going
get
to come
the
to my
Ables.
house. I got a hard copy and a soft copy coming.
Oh, nice.
I like to get the experience of receiving it in the mail.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
I probably can just go down to the publisher and get a copy, but
are they going to have hardcover in bookstores?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, when we get done recording, I'll tell you.
That's awesome. Anyway, go get the Ables.
So June 11th.
June 11th, Ables.
Do it.
Yeah, June 11th. When was it published the first time?
Officially May 2015.
Okay, so there's a lot of like new people out there who weren't with us around that time when Jeremy published the Ables, and now here's a second chance. It's riding a big wave again, getting a republished. So go out and read it. I've just recently read it again for my second time, so I highly enjoy it and highly recommend it. So
thanks.
So you should also when this book comes out.
That's right, and pre-order Strings too, the sequel.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. That'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scherer. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
I'm in a weird place. I gotta pee. Let me ask you this. Is there any visible semen in this movie? You have to think about it. You don't know immediately?
No. Dude, I'm not saying anything, but...
Christ. You're describing my sex life.
By comparison, it seems like you got a blowjob.
That's right. That's correct.
My news that I've decided to Topher Grace my own edit of the movie Passengers.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Footage has been loaded. There's deleted scenes and everything. I'm gonna have some fun.
Wow.
And then I'll have like a very private showing for a handful of friends, including yous.
Wow.
Ewans.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. How long is the movie?
Not very long.
Like probably an hour 40, hour 45?
Yeah, about that.
And deleted scenes, you've got a few of those?
A few of those. I might not even need them.
Have you seen them?
I think I could take the film and just re-edit it and just resequence it and make it a lot.
I'm trying to wrap my head around
Is it basically so that you find out that he's done this earlier? I mean, done this later in the movie?
I don't want to give too much away, but yes, we push that reveal to later in the film and make some of the footage from the beginning shocking flashback reveal footage.
Oh,
that flashes in between her realizations. I think it could work. I'm going to tinker. I'm going to commit time to this. This is the kind of person I am.
I think it's a brilliant idea, and I think I'm just trying to mentally figure out, using the existing puzzle pieces, how you shuffle them around, because I agree there's a way to do it, especially if there's a deleted scene that's...
Well, and I think I'm going to change the ending.
What you should do is slow down the footage on Andy Garcia and make it 5 minutes.
So he's just walking really slowly,
or just cut other get Steal Big, Steal Little in there somewhere, and he's saying something, and you just add extra dialogue.
Did I ever send you guys that video of the T-baller, little 5-year-old kid whose dad had told him to run as fast as he can, and he's a big fan of Flash? So he went into the Flash time zone, and so when he's running around the bases, he's literally going super slow, and freezing. And he does it all the way from second all the way home. It's one of the funniest things ever. I'm going to have to find out.
Yeah, I need to see that.
I had an idea for not an ongoing series that would be helpful like that, but just for a one-off video of rejected sin channels. So it could be like sinning TED Talks, and then you get 20 seconds of an actual sin video of a TED Talk.
Yeah.
Or sinning sermons or eulogies or all sorts of acceptance speeches
Bridal
at
toast.
the Oscars. Bridal toast.
Yeah, just imagine at a eulogy, the guy's he was a kind and gentle man. He was not.
See, I think that would be really funny to sin a bunch of inappropriate shit.
Isn't Jeremy Among Us the biggest Seinfeld guy?
Don't give me that side eye, bitch. Let's go. Trivia me up.
I would like to have a trivia competition between you and me about Seinfeld knowledge.
All right, then we'll let Chris be the Ross in the situation and make up the questions and the lightning round.
One of the when we were training for the World Series of Pop Culture, there was a question on one of the trivia things that we were using that was about Seinfeld that stumped me at the time, and I've never forgotten it. So you remember it's one of the cold opens actually, where Jerry is explaining to Elaine that he's got this shirt that's always, when he comes out of the laundry,
Golden
it's
Boy.
the first. God damn it! Yes, that's right. I'm telling you, I think you blow me away on Friends.
And Frasier, and maybe
And Frasier.
I would throw Seinfeld up in the air. But
Yeah.
if even for you, I don't know. I bet you know a lot more Seinfeld than you think you do.
I do know a lot. I mean, I've seen Seinfeld. I've seen okay. So there's episodes of there's seasons of Seinfeld that I didn't watch when it came on because at the time I was working at a movie theater and on Thursdays, and it wasn't as easy as DVR shit.
Right.
It was record.
Yeah.
It was record with a VCR, and I would forget and didn't have time, all those things. So all those years with the David Puddy and all that, I've seen episodes, but I don't know his arc at all. Don't know what his point is. So I'm everybody's big into David Puddy, and I know Patrick Warburton's great.
Oh yeah,
But I just never have gotten that whole thing. And so latter seasons, I'm not very well versed on at all, even though I may have even seen the episode.
Yeah.
I've seen enough Seinfeld.
you've probably just run across it
Yeah,
at some
but
point.
the first 4 or 5 seasons, I'm real fucking good at Seinfeld
Yeah.
because those are the ones that I used to see, the ones I used to watch over and over, especially the one where they're actually trying to pitch the TV show and Bob Balaban is playing Warren Littlefield essentially. I'm really good on those, but everything past season 4, I'm a little iffy on.
I'm maybe I think I'm stronger on the latter seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really got into the whole David Puddy thing because it started looking slicker. I don't know what they were using to shoot it, but it's because they would always break up and get back together within the same day. She'd be like, "Oh, we're breaking up until we get home from the subway ride." But then there was the one where they were on the long flight. I guess they were coming back from Europe or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's in the middle seat, Puddy's on the aisle, and then there's a dude Eastern European dude like in the window seat.
Vegetable lasagna.
She keeps calling him vegetable lasagna. There's I don't know if it's on that flight, but like she's in the middle and she has to like go around him to get to the aisle. And she comes back from the bathroom, and the guy's asleep with headphones on.
Oh,
she's like,
that's a different one. That's a different one. That's the one when she's with Jerry, but there's only one first class
Coach.
seat.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Jerry goes up to the first class. She tries sneaking up in the first class.
Yeah, I don't even know this episode.
It's fucking great. Barry. On Barry, the guy who plays Kramer in the pilot, in the pilot that they make for the show, plays a character in Barry very briefly.
Yeah, you've seen that season, the where they bring their top Chechen killer over to and he's in the garage with Stephen Root, and
the guy who stole the raisins is in that episode?
Yeah, that's him. He also plays Carl and Billy Madison. He's the nice like assistant guy in Billy Madison.
He's also the neighbor on Friends.
Yeah,
who's
the
always
guy's
mad
always
about them making too much noise,
hitting the broom, hitting the broom
Yeah.
or whatever.
He's he looked old when he was doing fake Kramer, but he looks really old now. And there's a gag in there where Stephen Root's like, "Hey, how old are you? Maybe I can hook you up with a girl." And he's like, 45. You mentioned this at some point. Like, I think people are going to go back to this show and start to rediscover it like a Sopranos
I just
level
saw
effect.
a headline that said Killing Eve's second season was a stumble. Barry's was transcendent or something, like went to another level or something like that. Basically, it's already kind of getting that critical darling cult classic buzz that I kind of thought it would.
It could get to Breaking Bad levels.
It could.
By season 3, which is going to come out anytime.
Ain't nobody
now.
was watching Breaking Bad for the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to be first to market.
There you go.
So I don't think
market.
that'll matter all that much.
No.
But I mean, it's
It's
well-done
evergreen.
podcast, though.
But the series definitely had a huge boost from Game of Thrones leading into it. And especially that Ronnie Lilly one that came out. That episode was right after that. I think it was right after the Battle at Winterfell episode.
Oh, yeah, the Long Night, is that what
the
it
Long
was?
Night? Yeah, it was right after that one. So a lot of people really picked up on it on that episode.
It's a
and that
perfect
episode
one.
is beautiful.
Yeah.
I like to drive. I don't like anything aside from that, though. The
driving part is
the driving is great. The traffic and the assholes are the part that I don't like at all, and that's unfortunately that's 50% of it.
Oh, man.
But no, I thought about it because I thought about renting like a trailer and driving it, and then having the cats, and I wouldn't have to have anybody take control. But I was sitting there thinking, man, even if I find a nice park to put that thing in, what am I going to... I mean, I'm sure there are ways to just keep everything cool while they're in there and hanging out and everything. The time that I had to prepare for it, I'm not going to do the fucking fire festival shit with this. For this.
Not in the middle of summer in the American West.
Exactly. For this trailer thing. If I want to plan that, I got to plan that like after I'm done with this trip. Like as soon as I'm done. And figure out everything I need to know about trailer life and all that.